Farming is an integral part of Scrap Mechanic survival. It provides you with food to quench your hunger and thirst. It is also the first step in getting things from the trader. That means that choosing the location of your farm is one of the most important decisions you will make. I'm MediocreMilton, and in this video I'm going to show you how to pick the best place to build your farm. If you do end up finding this video helpful, please click the like button and consider subscribing for more videos like this. Also, I do stream over on Twitch, link in the description below. Let's get started. So we're at the workshop, the mechanics workshop, and this is probably the location, the most common location for new players to build their first farm. This is actually where we built our first farm. Outside of the starting spawn area where there's a little pond that teaches you actually how to farm, and I guess you could build a small farm there, this seems to be the most common location that people actually build. Now you can excuse the mess here. This is a bunch of stuff we got from a warehouse raid that I just haven't cleaned up yet or made use for. But what we did was we built our very first farm underneath of this awning here, or this overhead, whatever this is. It kind of looks like a gas station. And the reason we did this was because it provided clear line of sight in every direction, and also the bots couldn't even get over this. So it was actually pretty decent. I think we probably had close to 100 plots here. And it also helped that just on this map, it was kind of convenient that we have water over here and on the other side. But what we ended up finding was it actually became very painful to get the water, because if you used buckets, you had to run all the way over there and back, and even if you filled them up, a bunch of them, it took forever. And running an actual piping system, even just using blocks all the way over here, just took forever and was very cost ineffective. So what we eventually ended up doing was building a farm over here. And I may or may not have shown this in previous vids, I can't remember. But we ended up having our farm right here on the water. And the reason we did that was obviously because there's water here. So one of the main things you want to look for where you build your farm is water. It's what you need to water your crops. If you want to have automated watering systems, you definitely need it close by. If you're going to do, even if it's a small farm and you're doing it manually, you don't want to have to travel very far. So that's where we built our first farm. And what we ended up doing was we ended up moving to a different place because, like most people, we kind of thought, well, there's probably a better place to build it because it'll be easier to defend. So having it over there, we actually only got attacked from 3 sides because obviously they can't spawn in the water. So with that in mind, we kind of did what many people did, and that was decide to build on a peninsula. So let's head on over to where our second farm was, and we'll take a look at where that was, and I'll tell you why we ended up actually moving from there. Okay, so here we are at where we had our second farm, and you probably remember this from previous videos. This is kind of where I showed the automated watering system. It used to actually be right here on this peninsula, and now the reason we built here was because there was a peninsula. And the thought was if we build on this peninsula, it'll be even easier to defend because the bots will only be able to spawn out here in this field. And we actually played on in this location for probably about like the first month and a half that we actually had the farm. And I will tell you that I did actually build it on this island first just to test some things out. Now, you can actually do this, and if you want to get away with something really easy and actually make the game like very, just not challenging at all, if you would find an island like this, and this island's fairly large, you can actually build your farm on this island, and I tested this. If you build your farm on this island and you actually cover the entire island so that there's nowhere for them to spawn, so basically place your farm wherever, and then build player-built structures, like so your wood or whatever you're going to build out of, just all around the island, the bots will actually not be able to spawn here. And what you'll end up finding is when I built this here just to test it out, like I said, I was never intending to do it because it just literally makes the game way too easy, is that they will end up spawning, like they spawned on the small island or they spawned across the water here. And the only bots that actually traveled across the water were the tote bots. And like we all know, since I did a video on it, like the tote bots literally provide absolutely no challenge. So if you want to make it really easy, or you're just looking for a casual experience, you can build on an island like that, or even a small island like this, and they literally will not spawn on the island as long as you cover the entire thing. So I did test that. I just wanted to see what would happen. Makes it too easy. There's also some plateaus. So there's some places, like there's one place on this map that actually has a plateau. And by plateau, it's like, it has these large cliff walls, and it actually goes around the entire thing. And the only way to get up there for us is to actually use the lift or to build up there. So you could also build up there too. Again, that just makes it way too easy. And for me, the reason I started playing survival was because I wanted the challenge of dealing with the raids. So now the reason we built on the peninsula originally, like I said, was because it actually only provided the one direction of a defense, right? So we only needed to defend the front side. So we had the farm like way back here against the back, and they could only come from the front. And we actually did a pretty good job of like funneling them into like where we had our traps and stuff set up. But the reason I got frustrated with it and decided not to do this was because as I expanded the farm out like slightly, I wanted to get it all the way up to this path. And what I realized was the further up I built it, like so the further in this direction I built it, the more the bots either spawned way down here on the beach, way down on the other side on the beach, or actually up on the cliff. And what ended up happening was, if they spawned up on the cliff, even if I built them steps that come down, they would just stand up there and they wouldn't attack. So once again, it just made it way too easy. And the reason I was trying to run the raids, honestly, was because in addition to getting the crops to turn in to get all the guns and stuff we needed, and to be able to make sandwiches and whatnot, and just actually have the challenge of having raids, is we wanted to collect the farm bot legs that we, or the hay bot legs that we get, and potentially the component kits they can drop. What ended up happening was a lot of times they would spawn right here, and because for some reason their AI right now doesn't like water, they would actually just glitch out by the water in one attack. So I'd actually have to run out here and actually either hit them with my hammer or shoot them, and it became very frustrating. So I decided, you know what, I don't want to do this anymore. I want to actually build somewhere else. And actually there was one other reason I wanted to move also. It's because I wanted to try to use a tire trap. So I did a video a couple weeks ago about how you can actually throw bots up in the air using a vehicle. It actually can kill the farm bots. It doesn't kill the other bots, but I wanted to be able to do raids where you can actually kill the farm bots by just using tire traps. And unfortunately right there, it wouldn't work because if I toss them over top, there's two things that could possibly happen. One, they could land in the water. And what I found out was if they land in the water, they actually will not take critical damage. And number two, they could possibly end up landing on the bridge or the other building structure back there, and they would end up just destroying that. So I just really didn't want that. Now, as I'm driving over here, I want to mention one other thing. I am keeping this location because we have all of our vehicles back there in that garage. And the reason I'm doing that is because the game right now cannot handle having too many things in one place at one time. I would 100% recommend if you're building large structures to keep things separated. So if at all possible, just keep your vehicles at the very least weld them off the ground. Like I mentioned in the previous video, the one about how to increase your performance. You want to definitely make sure they're welded off the ground. But in this case, I'm trying to keep things like just separated. So we have that farm over there, or we have that base over there where most of our vehicles are kept. We actually still have most of our crafting stuff going on over there. But the other farm over here is in the distance. You can actually see I have my bag. I have one of my bags there so that I can get to it pretty easily. So we're going to head on over there. I'm going to show you actually where I would recommend building, because this location, while it might look slightly different on your map, it should exist on every map. And it's actually probably the best location, depending on where it is on your map, like I said, but it's definitely the best location to build because it's a perfectly flat surface. So you don't have to worry about any kind of crazy terrain or anything like that. So as we head over there, we're gonna quickly show you why I think this is probably the best location. Okay, so we're approaching the location that I was mentioning, and I kind of tried to mark it from far away using this part of, this is from actually a warehouse, so I just kind of built this here as a landmark to see it. So as you can see, we have a massive structure here. This is actually probably way bigger than anyone would actually normally build. But what you'll find is this location is actually on, I think this is a point of interest, so it should be on every map. And it's actually just a large flat surface. So underneath this back area right here is actually perfectly flat ground that is actually a huge farm. And I'm pretty sure every map has this. Now, don't worry about that. We're going to fix that later. Actually, let me just disconnect it real quick so it pops up. So underneath it here, you're going to actually see that if I pick this dirt up, there's perfectly flat ground under there, and it actually extends in every direction over here. And like I said, I'm pretty sure this is on every map. It's like the large abandoned farm. And the reason I picked this location was, well, one, I wanted to build a massive farm. So I'm actually in the process of building this thing out. It's got, I don't even know how many thousands of plots right now. I'm going to do a video for it in very shortly once I have everything set up. Like I can get the watering system set up for both sides. But what you're going to find out is this is perfectly flat, and it's going to be, you can actually fit, I think, about 2,000 crops, 1,600 to 2,000 crops within the flat dirt area without the grass here. And it also should have one or two other little small plots around here. So this is actually another one that's perfectly flat, and over here's another one that's perfectly flat. And as you can see underneath there, it's just dirt. There's actually no grass there. So even if you if you have the foliage density turned up to medium or high or very high, it'll still be perfectly flat. So you won't have this grass clipping through here. The other reason is it's got this pond here, and actually we have another pond over here. So I have the watering system is going to be hooked up to here for this side of the farm, and it's going to be hooked up to here for this side of the farm. And also conveniently, this one just happens to be located right next to the ocean. So if we need more water, we can just head on over here to the water and tap into this source. And like I said, if you want to keep your vehicles separate, like I actually usually what I do is I take one, if I have one vehicle over here, because that's what I've mainly been doing, I just weld it to that pole over there so it's out of the way from the raids. And the other reason I built it here was because if you actually allow them to attack from each side, you're going to avoid some of the pitfalls of getting hit by larger raids. So when you get larger raids, what ends up happening a lot of times is, especially when you're on the peninsula, the bots, there'll be so many of the hay bots like clumped together that they will actually end up phasing through your structures. That's why I ended up building on some of my older videos. You might remember that I had something that looked like teeth. So it was kind of like, it was poles every other block down along like the whole thing. And then on top of it, it's kind of like looking like teeth. So they couldn't phase through it. And the reason I did that was because we had all the hay bots funneling into one small section of the map. And if you ended up getting 5 or 6 or 7 of them, if you didn't have that, they would end up actually phasing through the blocks. And we actually had the same thing happen with farm bots. So if you actually have it built on this area, and now of course you don't have to build it this large, obviously, but even if you did like a 50 or 100 plot build in the middle of this, you would get attacked from each side. But what you'll end up finding is the raids will be evenly distributed. So let's say you get a raid that has 8 haybots and 4 topebots. Normally you'll get 2 haybots and 1 topebot on each side, or at the very most 3. And so you'll end up not getting your base will not get overwhelmed, and they should not phase through. So you should be able to take care of them with simple traps. Or in the case of those guys, you can actually just put, like I said, durability block 6 blocks or higher. They actually can't break, so it's very easy to defend against it. Now, conveniently for this location on our map, and I'm not sure, like I said, I'm not sure where it is on other people's maps. It may be slightly different. We also have these massive wheat fields. The wheat fields have corn in case you need to take care of cows. The wheat fields tend to have lots of cows in them. I don't know if I saw any on the way over here because the haybots do typically end up messing with them. There's also lots of haybots wandering in and out here, so it provides a great source of scrap metal as well as occasionally component kits and obviously circuit boards. And like in this location, there also just happens to be, there's an ember forest straight up there, which has been completely clear. And actually you can see some cows in the distance. There also is a ruin here. And up here, there's 2 more ruins through the ember forest. There's actually a ruin across the water over there. So there's actually 4 really large buildings here that have lots of supply crates in it. So I could literally just stay in this area and never leave and get everything I want. And obviously the ocean's back here. So there's oil and and clams and whatnot. And there's also lots of beeswax around here, which you're definitely going to need if you're building a larger farm. So yeah, like I said, every map should have this. You probably just have to drive around and look for it. And it's also going to provide you some building resources because typically it'll have scrap wood and some other things around here, probably some buckets and whatnot, and maybe even some seeds. I can't remember because it's been so long since we took it apart. So you might find like a smaller one like this, but I'm almost 100% sure that this is a point of interest and it's on everybody's map. It might be in a different location. Ours just conveniently is located pretty close to the starting spawn area. So that bag you see off in distance was the previous base that I showed you, and that base is actually in the starting spawn chunk, which is where like nothing spawns. That was another reason I wanted to move it out of there, is because haybots and cows actually don't spawn over there, and neither do the supply crates. So we were over there before, and it was really easy for us to just drive around. We'd plant the crops, go out and go get a bunch of loot, and then come back and do that like every day or so in game, and it was great. But since they stopped spawning that stuff in, we actually decided, yeah, we need to move somewhere else. So like that's why I said this location is actually perfect for it. And like I said, you don't have to build a farm this big, but if you want to build a farm that's kind of looking like the one in the survival trailer, you might remember they had this flat area and they built around a pond. This is actually probably where they actually recorded that part. So that was the initial thought, was I was just going to build like a 1,000 plot farm in here and build around it. But then someone in my stream suggested, hey, why don't you just build it bigger? And they told me, oh, well, I'm doing a 1,600 one. I'm like, okay, well, how many can we actually fit in here? And I think we're ending up around like it's over 6,000 plots right now. And the only challenge was getting the soil, which I had to do tons of carrots. So I was doing like 500 to 1,000 carrots at a time and trading them in to get all this soil. And now the next step is to get all these, to get all the water cannons and the water containers and then the pumps and stuff to get all the water so we can get the automated watering system, because there's no way you can water all this stuff by hand. So anyway, that's going to wrap it up. Like I said, the things you want to look for when you're building your farm is you want to definitely 100% be near water. Like that's an absolute mandatory. You want to be near water so you can set up an automated watering system. And preferably you want to be in a flat area where you can see everything. And you can, like I said, you can build it on a peninsula or an island if you want to make it really easy on yourself. But if you want to actually like have a slight challenge, because building it on an island and not getting anything spawning, or building it like in a peninsula and only having them come in one direction, it can be easy or it can actually be challenging because they can phase through walls. But I can tell you, I've run a ton of raids in this area, and not one time have I had a haybot or a topebot phase through one of my walls, even with this single bar here. They literally will not do it because they're so spread out across how large it is. So you can build a massive base here. And like I said, this place should be on every map, so you should be able to find it. You just have to drive around and look for it. I would imagine it's close to the starting spawn area, and it might actually be in the same place on everybody's map. So for me, it was when you came out of if you come out of the spaceship area and just go left and just follow the coastline around, you'll eventually get to here. So I'm not sure if that's on every map. Maybe I'll have to check that out in the future. But anyway, that's it for this video. Hopefully it helps you in your farming adventures. Like I said, farming is one of the most important things you have to do in this game. It helps you, it gives you food, it gives you the stuff to trade for the trader, and it just makes the game more fun. So anyway, if you found this video helpful, please click the like button and consider subscribing for more videos like this. Also, I do stream over on Twitch. Link for that is down in the description below. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video.